Welcome to the Fund2000.com Real Estate Podcast. My name is Chuck Ham, and today we're going to talk about a landlord-tenant issue that comes up periodically. Welcome. My name is Chuck Ham. I'm attorney and broker here at our office, and I'm here to give you a little bit of information, and this is not legal advice. If you have any questions about your facts or circumstances, which will be very different than what I'm about to describe to you, feel free to reach out or talk to your own attorney. This issue today is about landlord and tenant issues as it relates to personal property that is abandoned by the tenant. So, as you know, we do real estate, and as a solo practice firm and a longtime real estate broker, we do occasionally get unlawful detainer actions, landlord-tenant issues. We have quite a few clients who are landlords. But we had this situation come up recently where one of our landlords had asked us about abandoned personal property. And, we got him a renter, so we listed the property. We knew about a tenant who was a little bit uncooperative, or at least pretty slow about getting out of the property on time. So he hired us to, one, get the property listed, which we did, and then leased, which we did. And he was hoping that that process would help motivate the prior tenants who had not been paying rent for some time to get out. So we sent them some notices, made sure that the proper notices were being made, and also worked on getting the listing and renting out the property. And all that worked out really well. But as the landlord suspected, the former tenants, were dragging their feet a little bit. It was taking a long time to get moved out. In fact, they were quite a bit late in getting moved out. Finally, they did, but they left a bunch of stuff in the house. And our client, the landlord, offered the tenant, he's got a unique property. It's a property with a barn, nice big lot. And he offered these former tenants the barn to store their stuff in, at least so he could get the house listed and leased and occupied. So it worked out. The previous tenants put all their stuff into the barn, and then they were kind of, again, slow and uncooperative on getting their stuff out. So my law office sent the former tenants some correspondence on this. But the way this started was the landlord suggested to me in an email that he's not really worried about the abandoned tenant property because he can just dispose of it himself and he'll keep whatever is valuable for himself. And I thought, that sounds like an issue that I've heard before, but I haven't actually dealt with. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there is a California statute about tenant abandoned personal property. And it's interesting because I've been doing real estate sales for over 20 years, and that involved listings of rental listings sometimes, but not so much that I would have this abandoned tenant property issue. So I'd never actually explored this. I found the relevant California statutes, and it outlines a whole process for a landlord to properly notify the tenant regarding what's going to be done with abandoned personal property. So that's the point for this quick and short podcast today. So there is a process. If you are a landlord, you should make sure you follow the process on how to dispose of abandoned tenant property. First, don't dispose of it. You store it. You have to follow the statute. So the first thing you do if they abandon the property is give them a little bit of time to claim the property. And then if they don't claim the property, let them know that you're going to store the property, and that the tenant will be, or the former tenant at that point, will be responsible for your reasonable storage costs. What is reasonable? Well, it's probably just what the market bears in the area. You can't overcharge. It's probably just an actual cost. If you have no other storage options are available and your storage fees seem kind of high, it probably will be fine. So go ahead and get the tenant property stored somewhere. It could actually be on your property too, if you have the option like this client of ours. But most people will probably incur some costs. They'll have to hire somebody to move the property to a storage unit. Those are all allowable costs for the cost of storing the personal property that the tenant has abandoned. And the next thing is you want to include in the notice what will happen to the property after a period of time that is outlined in the statute. Now, it's already been like a month since I've done this, so I don't remember all the details from the statute. I'm happy to refresh my memory on that. I just wanted to get this podcast recorded before I forgot everything, because I hardly ever deal with this. I just thought it was interesting because there's a lot of landlords out there, and I know this issue comes up a lot more than I deal with it. And I thought it was helpful information. So again, the statute, it outlines what you should do before disposing of the property. Now, you don't just dispose of it. You have to notify the tenant and a list of other related people who related to the tenant, occupants, I think it was, that the property will be sold at public auction at a specific place, probably at the storage unit. And you have to notify everybody. And I think you also, the statute says, have to publish that in a newspaper of general circulation, so that the whole world is notified that there will be property that will be sold, property that was abandoned by the tenant. And the reason why notice has to go out to the world is because the idea is you don't want the tenant, or the legislature anyways, doesn't want the tenant to get ripped off for their property, creating an incentive for landlords, unscrupulous landlords, to dispose of property at an unreasonably low price and abscond or take abandoned tenant property. So the legislature hopes to get the former tenant, a somewhat reasonable, probably still discounted value or price back for their unclaimed property. Now, if the landlord would like to participate in the auction of that unclaimed property, the landlord can do that. But only after, obviously, the process is followed of providing notice to the world, making sure, of course, that the former tenants are included in that notice to the world. It has to be, per the statute, follow the statute. So we helped our client on that question. We sent him very detailed instructions following the statute. And his situation was a little bit different because the tenants had already, left the property, and then they started moving some things out, but they were very slow to remove the rest of the stuff out of the barn. If you want help with this, or if you need any legal advice on this, you can contact me, Chuck, at Law4CA. CHUCK is my name, Chuck, at LAW4, that's the number 4, CA, like California.com, Chuck at Law4CA.com, and I'll be happy to help, or on any other real estate matter. We do mostly real estate law. We do focus on foreclosures and sales. We have I've been in sales for a long time, and our family has a sales firm and mortgages. If you have any questions about any of that stuff, please let me know, and we'll be happy to help. I hope this helped you, and thanks for listening.